Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Big League Breakdowns. In this episode, we are going to be wrapping up free agency as we finally got our last domino to fall, and Alex Bregman signing with the Red Sox. So we can officially wrap it up as we enter into spring training, if you will. I was corrected in our pre-cut of this episode that we are apparently in spring training as of February 13th.
Well, according to you, we're also out of spring training by February 13th.
Yes. Yeah.
Weren't all teams, pitchers and catchers reporting if they hadn't by then on like Tuesday?
Dude, I think pitchers and catchers reported about 2 months ago. Like I've seen spring training videos and people are pitching all over the place. I think everybody just
That's
is
how
ready.
pitchers are getting hurt.
Yeah, they're pitching too much. They don't know when to stop.
Well, who was
It's
it? Was
spring
the
training
first domino
that
to
go
fall?
into season.
Finally figured it out after all this time.
Who was the first domino to fall in the Tommy John race of 2025?
Uh
Yeah,
No, he's just in mid-season form.
yeah. I am not I am not wishing any ill on Tommy John, so I will say nothing, but
Well, I would
we
hope
can
not,
finally-
considering he's retired.
Yes.
we can finally get into this. Before we get into the thick of it, though, want to let you guys know that we are 10 days out as this releases from our Around the League in 30 days, where we will be previewing every team in the league for 30 days. Crazy how that works. So that's coming up in 10 days on February 24th will be the first episode. Been putting in a lot of hard work and really excited for that, so make sure to check that out. But without we are. Without further ado, let's get into this. So, as mentioned, Alex Bregman signs with the Red Sox 3 years, 120 million, with opt-outs after 2025 and 26, which I think is funny. There's been a lot of these contracts signed this offseason. But yeah, Bregman goes to the Red Sox, is supposedly going to be playing second base, and turned down more years, which originally it looked like that's what he was looking for that 40 mil a year. Instant reactions, John. I'll go to you first. That was so drowned out by his mic.
As an Orioles fan, I hate this. I hate this so much. I hate it so much. Why couldn't he just go anywhere else? He could have gone to the freaking National League.
Could have went to the
Sick of
Cubs.
it.
I would have hated it. The
He could have
Cubs
gone to
are
the
up there.
Cardinals. He could have gone to the Pirates.
No, he
Made them
couldn't.
better.
No, he couldn't have.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, we had
Hello.
we had rumors about, I think it was down to, I think the last three teams were the Red Sox, Tigers, and Cubs, I believe it was down to, or maybe the Astros, I'm not sure. But
Astros were out of it by then.
okay, yeah, I was gonna say, I think that was the
I mean,
final
they had
three.
a contract out there, but it seemed like it was between the Cubs, Tigers, and Red Sox.
Yeah, so apparently down to yesterday, it was Red Sox and Tigers. I think Tigers' offer was 6 years at 170, which again is funny because he had said, the whole thing was he was looking for a long-term deal, and he ends up signing the 3 years. And again, I don't think if you're him, I mean, it's hard to turn down $40 million a year when you have those opt-outs. But I of course I predicted him to go to the Tigers, so I was kind of pulling for that. But I don't know,
American
man.
League team.
Yes, my American League team, and I don't know, man. I think we were like just looking at the Red Sox preview the other day when we were doing research and stuff, and like I had a lot more confidence about them then, like looking at their additions, and then they just signed Bregman. Like I think this team could definitely be in that consideration to be a playoff team, probably a wild card team. But Will, what are your thoughts?
I was just double checking. So yeah, it is that Bregman's expected to play second base because that's what I wasn't 100% positive about, because I thought it might have been one of those situations where there was talks of them trading for Arenado before, and that they may move Devers to first, in which case it was what the heck is happening with Casas, and then there was a whole lot of that. But no, I think you're right. Whatever article I just quickly found, I think it was ESPN something, that he's going to expected to play second base. Which I mean, so the Red Sox needed a big right-handed bat, or at least some productive right-handed bat, because they're a very lefty-heavy lineup. So absolutely, Bregman helps split that up nicely. He's not the ideal fit because he's not a second baseman, but I mean, I don't think there's anyone that's going to shy away and say that this doesn't help the Red Sox immensely in a very competitive East.
I mean, look, they addressed their starting pitching a lot this offseason. They really hadn't brought in a bat, and then they signed, one of the biggest guys out there, right? And I think you kind of look at their numbers. Obviously Devers is there, who's awesome. Duran had a great year last year. And I think there is upside for Rafaela and stuff in the outfield. So man, I really was thinking like this was. I didn't really like I knew Boston was in the rumors. I didn't really think it was gonna happen because I didn't know like all right, they have Devers at third. What are they gonna do with him? So I really didn't think it was gonna be Boston, but now that they have signed them, I'm like, I really think this is a team that could be a wild card team. And like now the discussion comes in of the Orioles, a lot of people are saying haven't had a great offseason. The Yankees are still the Yankees, but um, the Red Sox could be pretty competitive in that AL East, and we'll see again. Maybe they can get into a wild card spot. I do have a question regarding these opt outs, though, or a question for you guys regarding these opt outs because we're seeing a lot of them, and it's a lot of these opt out after the first year. Um, do you think this is something we continue to see? I mean, it is kind of weird with this contract because even with how he plays, I feel like it'd be pretty hard pressed to, not sign again with the Red Sox and basically, that $40 million a year salary goes out the window. But like, Will, from your standpoint, what do you think about these like opt out contracts?
I think as long as we have this trend of big free agents going into January and February with their deals, that there is more of a chance that opt outs are a part of the contract. I know Burns got opt outs in his. His is a little bit more unique of a situation, I think, than what has happened with Bregman and then last year with the Boris Four. But I don't really think it's an issue to me. I don't feel like too many of the times. I, when it's a longer form contract, I don't feel like the opt outs happen. When it's a year or two, like Snell's contract was last year, and you have Alonso going into this year, I feel like they're more likely to happen because it's just players that are dissatisfied with their market, so they're just wanting to cover their butts in case they do mess up this season. But if they stay true to themselves and perform the way they think they can perform, then they'll go back into the market next year and get the deal that they want.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
it's
here's my issue with it. The fact that where's the loyalty to teams? Where's the loyalty to any sort of fan base? Like you go to a franchise and at the end of the season you can be like, I hit 36 home runs, I batted about 300. I think I'm going to test the market again. I'm going to opt out
I
of my
mean,
contract.
should those loyalties be there if the contracts don't resolve until February? Like,
yeah, I think
as the
they're
player, they want them to sign in like ideally you would think if not the end of the year, right at the turn of the new year, like they've maybe had the end of December to kind of think things over and then they sign in January. But when you have these deals that are being drawn out into the right before or even into spring training, I mean, I don't necessarily think there should be that same loyalty to it. I get what you're saying. And yeah, you could say one of the things with baseball sometimes now is that it is more about money. And so players sometimes don't sign. Either they
I
sign
mean,
massive, absolute monster contracts to stay forever, or they're signing these really minuscule ones to jump back into the market right away because they didn't get the super long term deals that they wanted. But I don't think the loyalty should necessarily be there because the team's jumping on them because they lasted too long on the market.
frankly, it makes it hard for me as a fan. First things first. That's what I am as a fan. It makes it hard for me to get excited about a big signing if I think that in a year he's going to be gone.
I mean, I think these contracts typically are are bet on yourself contracts, right? It's okay. I'm not getting what I think I'm worth. Let me sign this deal so I can test the market. I will say in this Bregman situation, though, to me it's a little bit weird because it's like, again, even if he does bad, obviously he's covered and he's gonna sign back with them, right? But like, you're not really betting on yourself with this contract because you're not going to get 40 mil a year anywhere else. I guess he's looking to maybe, if he feels like after this year he opts out and he can find a team that will sign him to a long-term deal, 30, 35 mil a year, then maybe that's what he would opt out for. But like, again, a lot of the times those contracts are signed for like, I want to bet on myself, I want to play well this year, go back in the market. This one just kind of felt weird. And again, the fact that Bregman kept saying, "Oh, I want a long term deal, I want a long term deal," where Detroit offered him 6 years, 170, and he ends up going to Boston. It is a little bit of a weird situation. But regardless, I do think it's a good signing, obviously, for the Red Sox. I think for Bregman, it'll be good. I mean, in Fenway, I think he can definitely boost his numbers, and he's going to be a nice little player for them. It just will be interesting to see what happens with second base. Um, but yeah, let's move over to Pete Alonso. He signs back with the
Took 'em
Mets.
too damn long.
It did, and this was another one of those players that Toronto was second fiddle on. Gotta feel bad for their fans this offseason.
No, I don't.
No, I don't.
I don't care. Mm.
Of course you don't. You guys have no sympathy for anybody.
As a
We figure that
baseball
out.
fan to another baseball fan, I feel bad for them because the organization has just led them to a very disappointing stretch that could be coming up in the near future after failing to build the team up well with the young core they had. And I don't blame all these players that are not going there now because like you don't really know what the future is for this Blue Jays squad. So you got lucky with Santander, I feel like, but
They are about to lose maybe their best player in their history. And it's because this organization literally can't get out of its
They're
own
gonna lose
way.
Vladdy a second. I would hate this, but I would love this from just an ironic sense of like, I mean, they're gonna lose Vladdy again. In my brain, what I was thinking as the team they lose, it'd be hilarious if they lost them to the Angels, because then that would just be like karma all over again.
There
Well,
was
he
talks
didn't-
about that, but like he talks
Are you
about
talking about just Canada in general, or are you talking about Blue Jays? Because he didn't play for the Blue Jays.
I'm thinking Canada at this point.
Yeah, I mean, there
They
was
lose two Vladdies.
there's
It'd be more ironic if, I guess you could say, if the Blue Jays lost them to the Nationals, who could maybe need a first baseman, because then it goes.
yeah, that would be so. Oh,
Nationals
God.
ain't got that type of money.
Well,
They
that'd
don't
be
spend it on anyone. They could have. People thought they were going to do something this offseason to really jump out. I mean, they did do something, but they didn't really make that huge push. So
Yeah,
they're still just taking small strides.
I mean, remember when like Bregman to the Nationals, like at first was like pretty hot.
That was
Like,
my idea. They
No,
got
but-
it from me.
I know, but that was like kind of a hot thing. But yeah, I mean, like, of course they lose Toronto. I'm getting to the Mets. I know we're like not talking about Alonso at all, Mets fans, but the Jays
As a
lose
Phillies
out.
fan, I don't give a poop.
The Jays lose out on Sasaki, second fiddle there, and all these other guys. And then there was like this, I swear, like this fever dream between like social media, people on social media, because like, Alonso and Bregman are out there and they're like, all right, what if they sign both of them? They have Vlad, like this is a team. They have Scherzer, blah blah blah. It ends up not happening. But I think for Alonso, as maybe as nice as Toronto would have been for him, I do think this is probably the best. I do think the Mets are still the best place for him. And now if you're the Mets, you have a nice like top three guys with Lindor, Soto, and Alonso. That really those three can compete with anybody, any other three in the league. So this is a massive signing for the Mets, and now I'll go to the Phillies fan as he will have to deal with that. I mean, what do we think the outlook for the Mets is? Like, I still think there might be questions with pitching, maybe, but they figured it out last year. Like, are they going to challenge to win the division?
Yes, they are. I mean, the Alonso signing is bigger than just the fact that you sign someone who can hit 30 or 40 home runs, give you 100 ribbies, and has been a face of your organization, arguably in New York for the past like 7 years. But one thing that was fairly glaring lacking in that lineup after the Soto signing was that there was no protection for Soto in the lineup. You had a strong top two in Lindor and Soto, but then after that, the like talent dropped off immensely. Not to say that it's bad, even though as a Phillies fan, I can think low on the Mets. But it was be very clear that the way they get to not have Soto beat you next year at that point was you just walk him like crazy, in which case he could have had a Barry Bonds type of season where he hits 300 and walks 190 times, and they're just going to be like, well, the guy on deck can be the one that gets who has to beat us. That still might happen. There's going to be a lot of instances where teams are going to choose to have Alonso be the one that beats them instead of Soto. But putting Alonso behind Soto and that risk of giving up now a 2-run home run versus someone like, even though Vientos had taken a huge step last year, that was really about it of people I would say that you could feel completely trustworthy with. So I think because the Braves are kind of really, it feels like they're makeshifting their pitching to me right now. And I mean, the Phillies are the same Phillies they've had that basically been around for the most part, except they have now an even more in-depth starting rotation, if that's possible. I mean, I think that the Mets are right in there with the Phillies and Braves right now, and so it's going to basically be I'd say probably 5 wins divides first and third this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the NL East is
All 3 will probably make the playoffs too.
Yeah, I think I think it depends with the Braves, if they stay healthy, but you'd have to imagine with the Mets, like I said, I think signing Alonso makes you have that big three in the lineup that's very scary. And, I think that they could be, up there. I don't know. I'd have to, I'll obviously talk about it in the team preview. I don't know if I'd have them winning the division yet. I still think it might be the Phillies, but I do think this needed to get done from the Mets standpoint. Like, I think you signed Soto in the offseason. Obviously, it's a great offseason. You signed a generational talent, but now you sign him and get Alonso back. I mean, this is a massive win for the Mets. This is what Mets fans have been looking for. John, do you have any comments on the signing from the Mets standpoint or from Alonso's standpoint?
I think what you said earlier, Will, of this protects Soto, I think that definitely helps matters, like you said, because look at what the Yankees did last year with him and Judge. And in terms of going back to, you said something interesting of they would have just had Lindor and Soto in that sense, and that's it. That's essentially what the Yankees did, and we saw how far that went. So clearly this just bolsters, that lineup and just makes it even more dangerous. I don't know. I don't know who you pick to beat you. I know that I'm not picking Soto. I don't know if I'm picking Alonso. So, in terms of everything, you gotta look at it this way. This does nothing but help.
Yeah. Like I said, I think it takes them from this was a great offseason to this is about as good as it could have got for them. They're gonna be a menace in the NL East. Let's stick in the NL East and talk about the Braves briefly with the Jurickson Profar signing. I think this is a really interesting signing because we know Profar's been around for a while. I was looking. I think his first season he was
Mhm.
only 19, which is crazy. He's been around for like 12 years. He's still only 31, I think. But he obviously had an off the charts year last year. Um, was that an outlier?
He had a
Does
very
he?
decent season.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm saying from his standards though, right? Like you look at years past, it was
He
very.
had an above average
It
season.
wasn't that though, right? So what version of did the Braves get is going to be the question. But I mean, will they desperately need of this, especially with Acuna not coming back? It seems like he's not going to be ready for opening day. It's going to be like a
Yeah.
April, late April, early May thing. It sounds like so.
Well, he tore the same ACL, didn't he?
Yeah, but they definitely need a depth in the outfield. So Profar was in it here, but Will, what do you think about this signing?
I mean, it's definitely better probably than putting Brian De La Cruz or Kellenic in every day, which is in a sense what he's replacing for the time being. Um, I think you're most likely getting more so the second half Profar than the first half because he was really hot for about the first two, maybe a little bit into June, and then he started to fade again back to the player that he was because his average was, remember, it was like 320, 330 or something. And he finished the season at 280. So he had to teeter off quite a bit for it to get that low, considering how hot he was and for how long. Now Braves are an organization that has a ton of fantastic hitting, and most likely he will fall a little higher than what he seems to be average for the like average season in his career, but I don't think you can expect quite as lofty as lofty numbers as he had at times last season. But one thing he is good at is walking and not striking out. So with the Braves lineup that has so much firepower, just being someone that can get on base for other RBI makers, I think could be plenty for what they need, especially until Acuna gets back.
Yeah, it gives
Oh,
them
it's the Billy Bean method. I don't need you to get a hit. I need you to get on base.
That's why we put Schwarber in the leadoff spot.
Yeah, I mean, I will
That
say
and the hit dingers.
I will say from your standpoint, Will, like this, Profar was the guy you kept alluding to, like, hey,
Yeah.
this would be a fit for the Phillies. Um, not to rub salt in the wound, but has to hurt a little bit that he goes to the Braves. But at the same time, I think, again, I don't know what to expect from him. Are we? Well, he might. I mean, the thing is too, like he might excel in that lineup when they're all healthy. Acuna comes back. They have Acuna, Profar, and Harris out there. That's a very good outfield. I'm just curious.
Defense isn't great, so it's gonna be fun.
Well, Michael Harris covers a lot of ground, so it's fine. But yeah, I think
Man's gonna have to play left center.
Michael Harris, we need you to play the outfield. Like, yeah, you do center, but if you see the ball hit, just run.
Yeah.
And it's in the right field corner, and Harris is chasing it down.
No, I think you kind of give and take. We kind of talked about it with Soto, right? You give and take with these outfielders that can hit for power. 24 home runs last year from Profar. And again, he cooled off a little bit toward the end of the year, but I like the signing for them. How do you feel about it, John?
I'm looking at the impact this has on the Padres. Honestly,
Yeah, I agree.
This leaves a big hole for them.
Their front office situation absolutely screwed their offseason.
I mean, they can't throw money at their problems and expect it to give results. What?
Well, I mean, we'll talk about it.
That they weren't necessarily wanting to throw as much money at people this year. In fact, they were trying to unload some of the money because of how much they've been throwing it before. And now we're like, all right, time out. We crossed the line.
We screwed up. Sorry.
My bad.
I mean, the fact that they were shopping Dylan Cease literally less than a year after they got him was like maybe an indication. But I agree, John. I mean, I think
bring him. I want him. We need an ace.
Well, apparently now he is staying. But yeah, I mean, I agree. Like Profar for that Padres lineup was a big hole, and we'll talk about it. But you can kind of throw the Padres into that category of the losers of the offseason. losing a guy like this. So I mean, if you want to
Mom and
expand,
Dad were fighting, and it made life hell.
if you
Wow,
wanna,
what a tease there, their host man.
yeah, I know. I'm good.
Stick
at that.
around to the end to see who we pick as the losers of the offseason.
So
After this commercial break,
did you want to expand anything with the Padres? Or are you fine with moving on?
No. We'll set it all.
not only wishes the best for Manny Machado.
Okay, well, good. 'cause-
I hope he hits 400, and I hope that
In the
he's
beer league when he has to play.
I
there
hope
after
he
retires.
mashes 50 home runs, and I hope they get knocked out in the wild card.
All right. Well, you don't have much to say about him, but I know you do have a lot to say about Anthony Santander. You were worried about it. You were worried about losing him. Not only do you lose him,
Not the AL East team I thought he would go to.
but I was going to say once again, he goes to the AL East team, interdivision. What are the Blue Jays getting in Tony Taters?
A guy who last season was an outlier. Honestly, that's just the reality of it. It mashing 40 some home runs and batting over 300. That was an outlier for him. If you look at his stats, producer man, if you get them pulled up, thank you. You're the best. Good job, Bobby. Anyway, so hitting 44 home runs. Honestly, I think his batting average, that projection, is generous right now, in my opinion. I think that 235, I think that's just gonna go down, especially because of the fence coming in. He's gonna want to swing for the fences. I think if that's gonna end up in like the 220s, frankly, and I can see him hitting close to 40, but not getting there in terms of home runs. But in terms of consistency and being in the lineup every single day, he's a guy you can count on, which is a big deal.
And, yeah, sorry, I was gonna say, and he got his payday because I think from the Blue Jays standpoint, it's like, they want to spend money. They keep saying it. And this is why they keep losing out on these guys. But they want to spend money. They give him a nice contract, and I think obviously from their standpoint, they're hoping that Bo Bichette bounces back this year, figures it out. They have something there, and obviously bring Vladdy back, and then having Santander, because I will say if Vladdy does end up walking and Bichette just doesn't pan out, you're kind of looking at a rebuild situation in Toronto, and Santander.
I feel so bad for Tony.
Yeah,
he went through one rebuild, came out on the other side, and now he's going through this rebuild.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you just have to hope, if you're a Blue Jays fan and if you're Santander, that they can put it together.
Well, I don't think it matters. It's gonna end up
Yeah.
being a rebuild situation. It just matters if it's gonna be this season or if it's gonna be next season. It does not matter. The Blue Jays are going to have to rebuild.
We
because
keep talking
they have
about-
screwed themselves.
we keep talking about them because really you can go back to the trade deadline of last season and say the Blue Jays are the biggest chip, in the MLB. I know my voice.
You were right.
Both are correct. Both are
I
correct.
swear I didn't say it, but my voice cut out and it did sound like that.
Both are correct.
You were right the first time, buddy.
But they're the biggest chip in the MLB because they have, Vladdy, who everybody's wondering, like, is he gone? And then at that point, like, how many other players do they unload? So, Santander obviously for them is great because hopefully he'll put a good product on the field. But I mean, 44 home runs last year, crazy season. Do we expect him to, live up to this contract that he just got?
Live up? Ugh. I mean,
5 years,
I
90
think
mil,
you
by
can
the way.
I
No.
think you can expect he hits around 30 home runs on average, but I do think John's right about it being an outlier. Given that I don't think the dynamic changes too much for him, since he's still in the same division, he's gonna be in a similar spot in the lineup, and he's gonna have similar-ish protection to what he had in Baltimore within that lineup and even behind him. I don't think it's gonna affect too much how well he performs. But I do think that the 44 home runs he hit last year was an outlier, and you're more realistically going to get a 230s, 40s hitter that hits around 30 home runs. So if he gets the 40, it's probably after a year or two of being comfortable in Toronto. But I think more realistically, you just got to hope that he can hit home runs with people on base, and then that's enough. Because if anything, you just need the drive-in runs. They're more important than hitting 40 taters.
40 taters, yeah. So we'll have to see. I think for the Blue Jays, they're looking for him to obviously not have last year as an outlier. I mean, I don't know if they can expect 44 from every season, but they want him to, they paid a big contract for him. They want him to live up to it. And again, it is interesting because they want to spend money. So even if they don't re-sign Vladdy, like, do they continue to throw money at free agents next year and just say, screw it, we're going to continue to try to build around? We have Santander still. We had, 2 or 3 big free agents. Do
Their
they continue to go?
issue
But
their issue is not money. Their issue is their farm system. They have nothing for the future and literally are screwed for the future.
yeah.
I think a big thing is going to be the Vladdy situation too. And I will say, if I had to make a guess now, I do think he would resign a long-term deal with Toronto. I don't think Bo Bichette will stay. But
I think it comes
that
down to
if
what he does this year.
I think I
for
agree. I
Bichette.
mean, yeah, if I don't think they're going to get both in the end, and I think in the end they're going to go for Vladdy. But I do think if Vladdy signs long-term there, then suddenly that becomes an interesting chip for free agents, because now they know at least that the Blue Jays have locked up their best hitter. And for the foreseeable future, they'll know that at least for 4 more years, we'll have some power protection with Santander. And so that will at least get the ball moving in the right direction. I mean, the way that the wild card situation is now, they may only be, if they were to bring back Guerrero, a year or two away if the right moves are made to be technically back in postseason contention. But to truly be postseason threats again, even though I know when they made the postseason before, they were in and out very quick, they're still a few years away until they're really going to be seen as a threat again. But again, like John said, without much of a farm system, they need to have a lot of things move in the right direction for that to happen.
Yeah.
If they are 15 out by June, they have got to look at trading Vlad. Like,
Yeah.
that's the reality of this. Like, you've clearly hit your wall.
Well, they could also
It's
trade him and then
something.
sign him back.
True.
I mean, I guess, yeah, they
They've done
could,
that.
but odds
Not necessarily
are
his caliber.
that wouldn't happen.
I don't know.
It is
I'm
risky.
I'm starting to lean toward more. I do think he stays, but we'll see.
He's going to do the Mike Trout option of, I'm going to stay with the sinking ship.
Oh God.
Aye,
Wasted
Captain.
career.
All right, I'm gonna give you guys 3 free agent signings. I want you to tell me which one you like the best for team and player. Nick Pivetta to the Padres, Ha-Seong Kim to the Rays. Don't make that noise. Who just made that noise of the on Nick Pivetta? That's messed up. Ha-Seong Kim and what was the other one? Oh, Jack Flaherty. Jack Flaherty.
Jack Flaherty.
Yeah, Jack Flaherty.
Pivetta won out on the Padres situation. I don't know if the Padres 100% won out, but
Yeah, I mean, what about you, John? You also on the side of Jack Flaherty for this one?
I would go Kim, but he's hurt, so I got to go Jack Flaherty.
I mean, also thing that weird about Kim is like, that's a weird. We'll get into that with the team previews with the Rays. That's a weird one for me. I like.
They needed to.
They
needed to replace their best shortstop in team history.
I don't know. It's just like from a Kim standpoint and a Ray standpoint, it's like kind of a weird signing to me. But yeah, I think Flaherty coming back to Detroit, who relied so much on that bullpen game through the back half of the season when they're doing so well. I mean, even Adrian Hinch came out and said that's not sustainable. If for 162, they have to sign starters. That's
No.
a that's a big chip right there. And then they'll obviously have Scooble still. They'll have Montero coming back. You'll have
You'll supposedly have Alex Cobb at some point, but now
Yeah.
he's dealing with hip inflammation.
What the
Casey-
hell? Why? That's not a good thing to say you have Alex Cobb at some point.
I don't know. Teams like him, man. He's reliable.
This
I
is
guess.
not 2014.
He's reliable
okay?
in that he pitches a game at least this season.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But
Jackson
he's had
Joe.
some.
He makes a single start.
Jackson
They
Joe
made
maybe
three or
takes the
4 last year or 2.
Yeah. I don't know if Job takes the next step.
I think he will.
But I think for the Tigers, this was if they, a lot of people are high on them, obviously, because what they did last season. But I do think they definitely needed to sign a starting pitcher and a quality one at that. And
And they
Jack
signed
Flaherty.
2.
yeah, Jack Flaherty back in Detroit. Another one of those weird contracts, 2 years, $35 million is off that after year 1. So we'll see what happens there. But let's get on
that
to
one makes sense though. That one does make sense though, because he wasn't
Oh,
necessarily
yeah.
consistent.
Well,
And
I
hasn't
think
really been consistent since he left St. Louis.
I think it
Well,
was.
think back, even when he left St. Louis, he was leaving when he was kind of on a downside because he had been dealing with injuries. So he really wasn't like 100% the guy that could pitch a full season and pitch
No, that's my
effectively for
point.
the entire season.
That's
but
my point.
My point. Well, then my argument is that he really only showed 1 or 2 years in St. Louis that he had it, and then he's been an issue. So it's not like he left St. Louis immediately as this like top of the line guy. He had potential, but he had too many question marks.
Yeah, I mean,
I think the thing is with this contract is just that he thinks he's an ace. Everyone else is skeptical. I'm with everyone else on this one, and so therefore he's trying to do the whole bank on myself type of deal. And even if best case situation for him is that he does a good enough season that he opts out and he might sign a 3-year deal next year. I know he's very young than what you think he should be. He's kind of like Profile, where he's just been around, it feels like forever. I don't think he's ever truly going to get the any big ace deal. That being said, Pivetta got 4 years and nearly $60 million with the Padres, and I think that's bull. So who knows? Flaherty might get 5 years and play for the Angels next year.
Yeah, I
With the rest of the trash
I think you're right.
and Trout.
I think he thought he was worth more, and he probably also was on a boat where teams were not willing to risk, going more than 2 or 3 years on him, and that's why the contract is signed. So yeah, bet on yourself, and we'll do this again next offseason, Jack. But let's get on to our winners and losers of the offseason. Will, I know you want me to go before you. So, John.
For the losers, because I feel like we're
I'm
going
going
to say the
first.
same
So,
person.
John, I'll let you go first for who was the winner of the offseason.
I would say the Mets.
Okay.
I think that's an easy one. I don't need to explain that one. So, okay.
Yes, you do.
Oh, really? You think I need to
Yes.
explain it?
Well, they only signed Juan Soto and Pete Alonso. That's not enough,
yeah.
really.
Wow. Okay. Anyway, and
They brought
then
back PD, and then they added one guy.
for the losers, I'm gonna go with the team who
Whoa,
did
whoa,
not.
whoa, 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 hold on.
Whoa,
we're only
whoa!
doing winners.
Who
Don't
said
jump the
anything about
gun.
losers now? You
Well,
loser.
don't jump the gun. If you don't have anything else to add, Will, I'll go to you for your
All
winner.
right, then go to him now. I thought we were doing winners and losers.
Oh, no.
But we are. But then he asked, "Who's your winner?" Not
Yeah.
who's your winner and loser.
Right.
Oh, fuck, Jesus.
At least somebody
He's
listens
jumping
here.
off the run a show. Jeez.
All right, Will, who do you got for your winner?
I'm going with the Cubs.
Okay.
I'm going with the Cubs because they're not going to break my heart this year when I predict them to win the division. But but the slightly longer
Small
answer
miss small,
is,
buddy.
I really like the thing is, yes, they brought in Tucker. I really like the bullpen additions that they did for them. So I think they have a very strong pitching staff, overall rotation and bullpen right now. And so I think that's going to be very effective, even though I know there's some now injury concerns with the side. But on top of that, you got rid of Bellinger and you brought in Tucker. What are you going to get out of Pete Crow Armstrong? Don't know 100%, but good defender either way. I like the fact that they have Tucker. I think he's 3 times the player offensively that Bellinger is. The one thing that could hurt him is if he gets hurt. But I think
it can hurt is if he gets
overall-
hurt.
Yes.
Fair enough. One thing that could hurt him is if he gets hurt. Funny,
Really,
how
you don't
pain-
say.
It's funny
You
how
don't
pain
say.
Hurting hurts when you get hurt. But I also think the
That's our
division
next
in
shirt.
general. I was gonna say thank you.
It's gonna have
Um,
Anthony Rendon on it.
Yeah. Hey, he's in mid-season form. He's ready to go.
Right. But in general, in that division right now, no one's made any additions to their team this season. It's either been subtractions or doing nothing. So the Cubs are the one team that did better.
So the Cubs I like too. The problem is I feel like since they didn't get Bregman, it makes me feel neutral about them. I mean, I think Kyle Tucker's an amazing signing. It'll not signing.
I think
the
part of
trade.
the reason why I think to me they're a winner is how I think it changes their postseason odds compared to previous years. Like I
Yeah.
could look at the Mets, I could look at the Yankees. I could even think about the Red Sox, though I have a lot of questions still about Boston's bullpen. And so I don't think the adjustments they made there were enough to make me think of them as a winner. But with the Cubs not being a postseason team last year and coming off of back-to-back seasons where they were struggling for a lot of the season, got hot late, but it was too late, that this year will be enough where, especially with the good bullpen and the way Council used the bullpen wisely in Milwaukee, that they'll be able to get into the postseason in that division fairly comfortably.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely up for grabs. That's for sure. All right. So I am going to go with the Dodgers. No, I'm kidding. We by
You
the way,
already
no,
gonna delete you.
I did. I don't. Did we say? Did we say that we're not allowed to pick the Dodgers?
Dodgers are in a category of
Yeah.
their own.
So-
I
so-
mean, we should have started with that just
So-
because of all the
Should have said no
signings they
Mets
did.
then.
Well, I was
No,
gonna
Mets
say-
did one big signing. The rest was either re-signings or
They just did the
like-
biggest signing. Whatever.
And then the Dodgers did everyone else. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, you know.
Yeah, so Dodgers were off the list. The Mets were my pick, but I'll go different because that's boring. So I'm going to go off the board completely.
What are you picking, a minor league
What are you
team?
I was gonna say you're gonna say like this Japanese team that we
Yeah. The
heard of.
the Dragons of what's it called? I forget what city they are actually.
Right. Okay. I'm going to go off the board a little bit here, and now am I going to put them in the same category as the Mets as winners?
If you
No.
say the Pirates, I'm gonna smack you.
Why would I say I've been dissing the Pirates for a month now, but
Oh,
I'm
you'd
going to
be
go
going
with a
off the
team
board.
in their division. I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Reds. I think
You're a
they,
moron.
You're an idiot.
I think they low key had a productive offseason, and they bring in Gavin Lux, they bring in Trevino. The biggest thing they've done.
You're a moron.
Listen to me. The biggest
No,
thing
because they're one of the losers.
the biggest thing they've done is
It's
brought
nothing?
in Terry Francona. That man.
That's true.
That man will turn it around for them. And then maybe not this year. Maybe not this year. They get
Maybe
close,
not next year.
but next year, watch out for the
But
Reds.
the year after that, there
Watch
might
out-
be a chance.
Watch out for the Reds as a playoff team. Okay, but listen though, outside of like the teams we already talked about, who would you go? Like it's the Mets. The Mets are the winners of the offseason, no doubt. Outside of the Dodgers, who else do you even go with? I think the Angels got better. I think the
No, they
Angels. The Angels could be up there.
I thought the Yankees were a possibility too. I had it between the Cubs and the Yankees were the two that I was thinking of.
I can
Because
see
the
the
Yankees,
as an argument.
well, the Yankees I thought were a funny one because to name them the winner of the offseason and they didn't get Soto, I thought was going to be ironic. And I think it's partially because their plan B, once Soto was off the table, worked out really nicely. Now, they are banking on some situations of older players or players that have been uneven. I'm saying Bellinger when I say that. But I mean, when they brought in Soto last year, they brought in Soto. They didn't really do anything else to the lineup, and it was you had your 1-2 punch, but you really still had a fairly weak lineup as a whole. As John said earlier, and what we all know from the season, obviously that was enough to carry him to the World Series, just not win it. So now we finally got the solution of what happens when you don't spend all the money on one person. You have to spread it out over a few players. And they got Max Fried, Paul Goldschmidt, and then they traded for Cody Bellinger and Devin Williams. And I think the addition of Fried is a really good addition. Now, after everything else having been done, I can say it was a good addition and a good move, and not just a weird move as it felt like at the time when they needed offense. The Devin Williams trade looks really nice now in the back of their bullpen. And then I think that the additions of Goldschmidt and Bellinger, Goldschmidt's going to be a lot better, even if he's not the Goldschmidt of what he was at times in St. Louis and for all of his career felt like in Arizona. He's going to be better than what Rizzo was. Bellinger is going to be better than what you got from Verdugo last year. And so I think in the end, that the Yankees, without making the big Soto signing, could sneakily be one of the best. The only thing was, to me, they basically went from being a playoff team to a playoff team. So they didn't change as much, which is why I thought the Cubs in the end, to me, were because of how it changed them from a second place team maybe to a first place team.
I like that argument.
I just feel like if you lose a top 3 player in the game to free agency, you automatically cannot be a winner of the offseason. That's my thing about it.
I don't think an offseason, though, should be completely set on one player. I mean, one player can make a big difference, but one player is not a team. Like, you can make one signing, and that's a great signing for your team, but you still have to fit all the pieces around it there. And if it's a team you already have a lot of stuff, then you don't really need to do much. He just looks great with what you have and changes your team from being probably at that point a really competitive team to now one of the best teams. Whereas if you really need to get creative with building your team, it's how, all right, can I take multiple players to now craft my team into the best it can be? And so from the Mets situation, I do think there's still some potential questions with pitching, because they have a lot of like 2s and 3s, and there's maybe an ace that's not sure there. And they have a whole ton of bullpen depth right now, because it just feels like they keep signing guy after guy after guy. And I'm not totally sold on the lineup as a whole still, but it's a very strong top half. There's no doubt there. So it's more than just one player. If we're being honest, Dodgers win hands down regardless, just because they're signing everyone on God's earth. But at this point, saying the Dodgers win everything feels too redundant. We want to give credit to someone else.
I don't know. Again, from the
sound like NFL voters for the MVP.
I agree with
you're
just
sad saying that Lamar didn't win again.
Oh, you mean he should have, but whatever.
All right, this is a baseball podcast.
I was gonna say that's a different podcast for later. Look, the way I look at it is, yes, does one player not make the whole team? I get that, but you replace Bellinger with Soto, you replace Goldschmidt with Rizzo.
And I'm saying Bellinger over Verdugo. I mean,
but
you lost Soto. No one's going to replace him. So to immediately compare someone to that,
right? So then you're losing. So that's my point. How can they be the winner if you can't? If you literally can't?
Well, they weren't my winner in the end, but I could see an argument for it.
But I'm arguing that there's no argument for them.
Hold on, I want to play devil's advocate here in favor of Tyler here, because you were the New York Yankees and your budget compared to other teams is so astronomical. If you can't sign the top free agent, there's something wrong.
I think it was his choice in the end when you look at what the deals basically ended up being. I mean, the only real difference...
nobody put a gun to his head and made him sign the contract.
The Mets offered more than... Not that
the Mets offered more because of the opt-out that's in it.
But I'm talking about what it comes down talking about they were able to offer stuff that the Yankees literally couldn't, with like all the incentives and stuff.
Hold on. They offered stuff the Yankees didn't want to.
That's
my point.
Literally, I think, what does he have? Like his own, like
he's basically got like what Soto's home you're talking about?
Yeah, no, I'm saying like, doesn't he have like his own suite?
He has his own suite, yeah.
There was like also something else. Now I'm forgetting what.
But like that's my point. Is if the Yankees wanted to offer him that stuff and give him that, they could have. They're the Yankees. They can sign anyone they
on
want.
a money standpoint, yeah, but I'm saying, regardless, I think that it's
I think
just-
there's a point too where Soto is like he's not going to do the back and forth of, well, they give me this, what are you going to give me? He's just going to be like, what are you going to give me, and leave it at that. And so the
Yeah.
Yankees put what they thought was the most competitive. And I mean, truthfully, aside from all the side stuff and the opt out that'll eventually push his contract to 400 million when the or not 400 million, 800 million when the Mets pick it up or whatever. That like I bet if the Yankees deal, I mean, it was neck and neck. It really was. It was very competitive without knowing what the other team was giving. I would have felt very confident too, and Soto just purely went, I think, where the money went, which he kind of said he was.
Yeah. I want to, by the way, save the clip of me talking about the Reds, and I'm telling you, they're gonna be
So the Reds are going to be your team next year that like we keep saying you're a moron about, and then they make the postseason, and then we're like bowing down to you.
Wait a minute, a Pirates fan thinks the Reds are the winners?
Yeah,
What?
man.
I'm buying him a
right.
Reds jersey that says
Oh,
Paul
yeah.
Skeens sucks. If the Reds
See,
make it to
I
the
would buy him an
postseason.
Ellie De La Cruz jersey, but I don't think he's going to be in
Ooh.
Cincinnati next year. So it
Signed.
doesn't matter.
All right,
by
but
Paul Skeens.
again, so outside of the Yankees, outside of the Dodgers, I think there's a group of teams you can put in the winners. I would say,
I basically had 5 teams I considered winners.
Detroit. I think.
I'm
No.
neutral about them at the moment.
Who else could? All right, hold on. I need to know who else you could have had.
The 5
Dodgers,
winners I
Yankees.
had were the Cubs, Mets, Yankees, Dodgers, and Red Sox.
Okay, I mean, yeah, because all right, I guess, but I'm looking
They're
at
the
like
winners. I have a lot more losers. I had a lot of losers.
yeah, there's a
And
lot.
everyone
that's
else
what
was
I'm-
neutral.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go into the losers then. John, you were so eager to do it. So who is your loser of the offseason?
So I actually have 2.
Okay.
Baltimore and who else? The Pirates?
Ha 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 ha.
Oh wow.
No.
Yes.
No.
Aggressive.
I'm gonna go. My first loser is a team that did nothing and is going into this season with a hope and a prayer, and that is the St. Louis Cardinals. They did nothing.
In
They-
defense of the Cardinals, they've stated this as their approach this offseason already. They basically have said that they're going to try to get younger. And so they weren't going to really be signing guys. They were going to turn to their young core and understand that they're going to be taking a step back potentially and looking more
Hey,
towards
fans.
the future.
Just wanted to let you guys know we have every
The
intention to
Lou.
do absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
this
Remember
offseason.
when
I
I
thought we'd let you know.
remember when I picked them? to
Buy
win
those
the
season
division
tickets,
last year?
guys.
Yeah,
I
that
thought
that
you
helps
was
their
a
season
moron,
ticket,
and look, I was
ticket
right.
numbers. I mean, truth be told, I mean it's St. Louis, and that's a baseball city, so I guess it really
Mhm.
wouldn't hurt season tickets. Anyway,
Stop
my-
calling it St. Louis and just start calling it the Lou already, since they so desperately want it to
Lou
happen.
for the losers.
Louis the 15th, Louis the 16th.
Loser.
All right. Here's your second loser.
My second loser is I'm gonna go with a team that was on top of the world for a long time.
God damn you.
The Houston Astros.
Thank God.
They lost so much, so many pieces, so much of their core that they just have a gaping hole where free agency screwed them. To put it
That's
in
a
a
wild
PG
sentence, by the way.
PG-13
Jesus
manner.
Christ.
I'm gonna go down with
I
who they
I think
lost.
that's a little unfair.
I'm gonna mispronounce this first one, by the way. Jose Urquidy.
Akiti.
Urquidy.
Thanks. Urquidy, sorry. Hector Neris, Jason Hayward, Yusei Kikuchi, Ryan Presley, Justin Verlander, Kyle Tucker, and then probably the biggest piece, Alex Bregman. So, those top 3 alone.
Are we just going to completely ignore the
would
fact
hurt.
that they brought in Christian Walker and at least Isaac Paredes,
Also, what is the average age of
I
all
don't-
those players?
and that they're going to
I-
get some Tommy
that
John guys
doesn't-
back this season? They lost for
doesn't-
most of, not all of
Hold
last
on. Let me talk.
year. I'm asking questions.
The drowning. No, I agree with John on this. I do.
To me, the amount of who they brought in to what they lost did not plug those holes. It kind of just put a Band-Aid over a large cut.
I mean, they're not my losers of the offseason, but I agree.
They're not. I don't think they're undecided to me. They're not. I don't know whether. I mean, yes, I agree. They are not as talented as they were last year. They are. They appear though to be pivoting to get their payroll under the luxury tax so they can reset their penalties. So, given that,
You mean the penalties they should have gotten?
Do they get the World
yeah, they're
Series
never
ring
going to
taken
get
away?
that. But
Did they lose the piece of metal?
What they've done to stay under the luxury tax and the players that they brought in and trading away from a surplus that they had, I feel like they're still very competitive and still in competition.
They're in a terrible division. Of course they're going to be competitive.
And that's what you partially want in the end. You want to stay competitive.
Hang on it.
And
Hang on
so,
it.
I mean,
Dude, every time I see Bobby's lights come on, I know something's coming. Something's coming.
so I'm
You
not
heard me
gonna
say
full on
Astros, and the
they're-
wheels started turning in his head.
I'm not going to say they're full on losers, but I think that they could be a sneaky team and that the additions they made could do a lot more than you think.
They'll still win.
I especially
They'll
like
be
Christian
fine.
Walker. I like Christian Walker signing a lot. I think he could be a huge piece with how clutch he seems to be and always hitting 30 plus home runs and knocking in 100 RBIs when healthy.
By the way, I seen a report today that they might have Altuve in left field next year, which is going to be interesting.
I've heard that Altuve was open to moving positions.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't know if that was a definite thing.
That's-
That kind of makes sense because Jordan, one of the best hitters on the planet, but you cannot have him. You cannot have him in left field all season.
He doesn't stay
I
healthy
mean, truth
enough.
be
You have
told, if
to have him
you
DH.
truth be told, if you're going to have him in your home stadium, especially theirs, if you're going to have him in the field, left field's probably the best place because really it's so short that
Well, he
He's got nowhere
won't
to go
rob
but
any.
in.
He won't rob any home runs, even with the Crawford boxes there. Any
He
field
just throws
he
his
goes
glove
to.
up to try to hit it.
Wait a minute. You're telling me Jordan Alvarez can't jump 20 feet in
I'm
the
talking
air?
about Altuve. I'm talking about Altuve's not going to be able to.
Oh,
Robbing home
I'm
runs
sorry.
anywhere.
Hold on. I'm sorry. The 5'2" second
Right.
baseman
He
can
Isn't he
jump
5'5"?
20 feet in the air.
You're right. That's exactly what I'm saying.
He's gonna crawl up the wall.
God.
All right. Well, I'll
What a
say
scrub.
I'll say mine first. But is yours the Braves?
No, but they are
we-
on my list of losers.
We have the same one then for sure. My
I'll
loser.
say
Have to
two
flip
then.
somebody off.
My loser of the
Wait,
offseason.
wait. Can you guys say it at the same time? I want to see if you guys truly have.
All right,
the-
here we
the
go.
right one.
All right, you
Three.
gotta count. No. He has to count them down though, because of the delay.
All right,
All
fine.
All right.
I have
All right,
two.
here we go.
So should I
Ready?
say both or just one?
No, just one.
All right, I'll say
All
the
right,
one
ready?
highlighted.
3, 2, 1, go.
Mariners.
Mariners.
Yep. Yeah, there it is. Okay.
My second team was the Twins.
Okay. Yeah, Seattle
All right,
Mariners.
I thought about them too.
And you know what's funny? All right,
I
hold on.
hate how we think alike too much on these.
By the way, because
That's why-
I real quick before I get on the Mariners, I love
you
how
do
like,
Mariners, I'll do Twins.
No. But I was gonna say the thing about the Twins is I don't know. People are like they're the favorites to win the Central. What is
Which is
happening?
partially why I backed out because I was like, all right, if we're being
Common
honest,
Central, man.
they fell off, of course, the division last year. Or not division, the playoffs. But they were a playoff team for 2/3 of the season, 3/4 of the season before. The Tigers had an absolutely historic stretch, while
Yeah.
the Twins had an absolutely historic stretch in the opposite direction. So it's a lot of just good and bad just happened at the right time to make that happen. So do they technically need to do too much to be competitive? No, I just feel like that with the rest of the division. The whole thing about the Twins has always been they don't do anything and it's going to bite them in the ass sometime. And last year it did it. And so this year, what is the answer? Basically do nothing again. And so it's like the Tigers are getting better. The Royals barely, but they got a little better.
They'll be better. They're a young team.
They didn't do anything really though in the offseason. They've done two things and then traded away a pitcher. So, I backed off on being the biggest loser just because I felt like my decision to maybe having them be the biggest loser was more out of spite than what actually happened.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know. I mean, I think we can say this for a lot of teams, but they were one of the teams that got killed by the injury bug, and maybe that's why they're projected to win the division. But you also can't predict injuries. So, regardless, I'm gonna go to the Mariners real quick. Really, what it comes down to is they have one of the best pitching staffs in the league, just in terms of depth, top to bottom. And they refuse to address the offensive problems. That's basically how it is. I mean, you're wasting what you have in Logan, Gilbert, and Castillo, Kirby, all those guys. You're wasting their talent because you refuse to get a hitter. And we talked about it. How many? I mean, I think we all had like Walker potentially going there. Any top first baseman we mocked to go to the.
I don't think I had
Mariners.
him getting anyone good.
But that was.
Oh, we're talking about Mariners, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not even talking about like just our show. Like everybody.
I said Torres.
In the baseball, yeah, you did say Torres.
Tigers, what are you doing?
Everybody in the baseball world was like, "Hey, yeah, they're gonna get one of these big first basemen, no doubt about it." Donovan Solano, not the same. They bring back Jorge Polanco, who, by the way, had his worst season of his career last year.
Yeah.
There's also this narrative going around that apparently people can't hit at the Mariners field, like hitting
right-handed hitters can't hit.
Right. So what the fuck is going on?
I'm starting to believe that's true.
Like,
that's why the pitching's really good. And
I was gonna say,
good thing that their franchise player isn't a righty. Oh,
good. They signed to what, like 13 years?
Yeah, 13 years.
His seasons are basically stuck for half of the season or a couple months, and then be like, oh yeah, it's baseball season. And then
I do want to do a deep dive in like the home and away numbers for their pitchers, because this whole narrative came out. Regardless, they have so much talent in that starting rotation. They refuse to address the elephant in the room, and that's why they are the biggest loser of the offseason. The Seattle Mariners.
Thought they might trade something from that pitching staff to try to get a piece somewhere. I still think there could be this trade where they get like Torkelson and just try to take a flyer on him.
Yeah. I mean,
whenever I hear that name, I just think the Pokemon.
Torkelson.
I just don't know what he just called me.
Pokemon.
Oh, also, by the way, my pick would have been the Pirates, but I was banned from picking them. Just want to put that out there as the Pirates.
You say too much on the Pirates, and that one
we do. We do.
The Mariners were worse.
We do, but it's well deserved. Okay, talk about the Twins.
Do I have to say more than what I already said?
Oh, sorry.
We already did.
Sorry. I don't know. I just wanted to shit on teams other than the Pirates for a second.
I did have the Orioles on this list, but I didn't think they were the worst.
I can go back to the Cardinals if you want.
No,
for 1 point. That
John,
division is wide open.
John, I will defend the Orioles for a second. There's a lot of people saying like, "Oh, the Orioles lost season, blah blah blah." Obviously, they lost Burns, but it's not them there. I don't think the Orioles offseason is as bad as people say. And also, I think people got to realize, like, Jackson Holiday hopefully was going to take the next step. So, yeah, I'm going to defend the Orioles for once. And
I'm not going to defend the Orioles. I was going to go as far as if the Blue Jays had signed Bregman, my bold prediction for next season was that the Orioles get last place. They were not going to be egregiously horrible, but I could see them being what the Blue Jays were and win about 78 games and miss the postseason.
I mean, I will say the Rays.
One, I think you're wrong. Two, thank you, Tyler.
The Rays model of consistency, they'll be 500. So,
well, I was going to say, all right, Rays consistency 500. Blue Jays, if they could get just enough offense, maybe like 84 wins. Not enough for the playoffs, but enough to get them out of the gutter. And then the Orioles not doing it. I really don't like their starting pitching rotation, but
yeah,
I think their bullpen can still be good.
I think that they're going to make a trade.
They need a starter at some point to help that out. I, as a Philly faithful and ally of Zach Eflin, I am also honest in saying he is not an ace. He's also not healthy most of the time. Granted, last year seemed to be an exception, but
I am looking at Luis Castillo, Dylan Cease.
Well, Cease is kind of out of the question now, but yes.
Well,
Castillo-
mid-season trade. Yes,
the
they
Padres.
basically. Well, they've come
Padres
out and
said
said
they're
he's
keeping
not,
him.
but then of course GMs will do that. Then a trade will happen. We'll be like, they're lying. Whatever.
I was about to say that doesn't mean anything, Ty. Yeah,
Yeah.
for the right pieces, for the right prospects. And frankly, the Mariners do need help, especially at first.
Ryan
So what, you're gonna
Mountcastle?
trade Ryan Mountcastle for a pitcher, then sign Anthony Rizzo?
My God,
mean-
Anthony Rizzo on the Orioles. That would be a sight for sore eyes.
Yeah,
that'd be a
my
sight.
eyes would be sore.
No, I don't know. I think again, it's going to be a Jackson Holiday for me to be right about this has to take a step next season. But I do not think it was them. I think the Mariners. I still will say the Pirates had the worst offseason. And I think a lot of social media would agree with me.
I
But for
think
the
this
purpose
one's
of
a
this
little
exercise.
more harsh on the. You don't like how your owner.
No,
doesn't let you do
come on. They're getting slaughtered on social media because of the fact that they don't spend money. This is easily the Pirates, and it's not even close.
But I think Spence, even with the injury, I feel like Spencer Horowitz's thing was better than, and even bringing Adam Frazier back isn't better than anything that the Mariners did to better their team.
for the expectations, it's the Mariners because the Mariners have an expectation. The Pirates don't, but the Pirates.
I don't like it
simply
when
not-
Mom and Dad
We're gonna
fight.
go by that logic, then the Miami Marlins were the loser because
Also
they did
them,
nothing
yeah,
but
I
trade
agree.
people away.
I agree. Like the
But
Marlins.
they're a team that's so bad, they're basically gonna
Bobby,
be
how's your day
rebuilding
going?
until they can do anything.
We're not even arguing. We're literally having a conversation. Like I agree.
This is very
I like
heated.
it.
He's like, oh, they're arguing, and I'm like, I literally said to Will, I agree. Like, we're not
But I'm
arguing.
so angry when I say it.
You're
That's an
manipulating.
intro
You're
tone.
manipulating.
I'm manipulating, of course I am.
Gaslighting.
It's my favorite pastime. What do you mean?
Amber Turd is the host of this show.
All right, that is all for us here at Big League Breakdowns. Again, make sure to check out our upcoming videos on the Around the League in 30 Days. I will eventually get that title down.
You want to
and-
sound a little more excited to end this
He
show?
needs to.
My
He needs us to
God.
end this episode and restart it so we can just do the closing.
Yeah,
to
we'll do
end this show. Yeah,
I'm tired. I'm
Check
tired,
out
and we
our
went-
coming 30-day series. Which
was his idea.
I'm tired.
Go on,
and we-
John, keep
and
going,
we,
you're good.
And we went 20 minutes longer than I wanted. Oh my
30
God.
days.
Relax. Relax. Follow us at BL_breakdowns on Twitter. Big League Breakdowns everywhere else. And that is all for us. We will see you next time.
Wear your seatbelt.